Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We are, of course, your multi-award winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast. We are back ahead of what feels a monumental week in the history of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. Whoever says we over-dramatise or over-sensationalise this show, if it's the first time, you can find us on iTunes, we're on Spotify, we're across all major audio platforms. We've got 3 fabulous returning guests that are ready to guide and steer you through the world of Spurs that feels like it's always ever changing and ever moving. For our listeners on audio, of course, we're building up to tonight's Champions League second leg game against Atleti. We have to enjoy it because we're not sure, again, when we'll be hearing that glorious music. But helping us steer us through on this show, we've got the superb Adam Nathan back from the Echoes of Glory. Ad, love to be back alongside us. Are you ready for this week ahead?
Yeah, I'm ready. Thanks for having me. I tell you what, that intro music hit slightly different after a good result. My head was nodding. You know, the sky's slightly bluer, the flowers look slightly more colourful, the grass is a bit greener. Everything's just that little bit better after a good result.
Absolutely, mate. Totally agree. I've not even won a game yet. Can you imagine what's going to be like when we actually win a football game? I mean, we're middle of March. We've not won a football match yet. Also back on the show, we've got the superb George Achillea back in the building. G, how are you? In what? Again, I feel like maybe have I gone too far, George? Is it a historic week in store potentially for Tottenham?
Yeah, I mean, I'm good, mate. It was just mad going up to Liverpool, to be honest, expecting to get battered and somehow actually come away with a decent result. So I was definitely happy with that. Yeah, no, I think this is an insane week because, like you say, on one hand, you've got Champions League tonight, or for listeners, or tomorrow for those watching now. That you know what? Look, stranger things have happened, but I don't think anyone's expecting anything big. But we all know because of how important Sunday is, we still need to have good momentum going into Sunday. So even if we can, win tomorrow or / today and stop having that belief we had like we did against Liverpool, then yeah, so be it. Because obviously with this 3-week break coming up after the Forest game, we really, really need to win that match for our insanity, for the points. We can't imagine losing that game and you've got 3 weeks to sit on how the season's going to go.
I don't want to think about that, G.
Mate, it'll be an absolute nightmare. So yeah, no, this is an absolutely massive week for Spurs, if not one of the biggest.
Totally agree. G, spot on. Also, love to have Gary Wall back on the show. Gaz, how are you, mate? We can't get away from each other at the moment. You well? And how are things in what, again, we are billing a massive week inside the world of Spurs. Gaz, give us your thoughts.
Yeah, well, good. Regular together at the moment, aren't we? But look, we got a point. The sun was shining today, and there's some players coming back from injury. So there is a slight light at the end of the tunnel. Hopefully, it isn't that oncoming train that's going to just derail us. But let's pray and hope that the light is going to get ever so brighter over the next few days.
Fingers crossed. Well, look, in terms of what is coming your way on this show, we'll be discussing the confirmation that Igor Tudor is for now here to stay. What do the boys make of that decision that Spurs have taken on the back of that 1-1 draw against Liverpool, where we saw a degree of fight, passion, desire from the players? Is Igor Tudor going to win over fans? We'll have to see. Look, still early days in his reign. And again, a massive week in store for him. Atleti tonight and, of course, Forest on Sunday. We'll be discussing the planned preparations for, of course, Sunday, where we'll have Billie T join us midway through the show to discuss what is being branded. Show up, sing up, stay up. That is the message that will be cascaded through the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and beforehand ahead of Forest in what is going to be a massive week where there's a lot that is going ahead of that Forest game. And we're bringing you the latest on this show in terms of how fans can get involved beforehand. And obviously, of course, once we enter the concourse for the massive game against Forest on Sunday, we'll be discussing Micky van der Ven's comments where he suggests that it's a denial from him alone and hopefully for the group that nobody doesn't even be thinking about relegation or care for the football club. We'll be getting the chaps on that and their thoughts on that as well. Pedro Porro, he's discussed his future and where he stands for him at the moment in a Spurs shirt. And we've had some good news, as Gary mentioned, on the injury front, which we'll come on to during this show and build up, of course, to that. Again, big game for Spurs in the Champions League against Atlético Madrid, of course, tonight. But let's start with the headline news. And Ads, I'm going to open with you. It was confirmed to us in the early part of the week that Igor Tudor is to remain as the Spurs interim head coach for the upcoming games against Atlético Madrid and Nottingham Forest. Of course, he's had we had a difficult start to life at Spurs, losing his opening 4 games. It was a record even for a Spurs head coach to lose that opening 4. But like I've discussed already, that point at Anfield has put everybody in a bit of a better mood going into Atleti tonight and Forest at the weekend. Add your thoughts on the decision we've taken in terms of Tudor to remain.
Yeah, look, obviously the positive result has changed so much of that. And I think he backed that up with the quite spiky press conference with Patrick Davison from Sky. And I think everyone was so relieved and thrilled with the point that we saw him go at the Sky guy and went like, go on, Igor, go on, have him. And then a little bit with Gary Cottrell came out apparently from the pre-match stuff. So, I mean, there's a lot about Igor Tudor that is appealing as a manager, particularly this sort of firefighter role. Like he doesn't seem overawed by the situation in the way that Thomas Frank pretty much from day one looked a bit like a rabbit in the headlights and never really struck me as a guy who had the personality to do the job. So there is a bit about Tudor that I like. I mean, as ridiculous as it sounds, my thoughts on Tudor, whether he should be manager or not, I'd like him to show me what his starting 11 is planned for on Sunday. And if it's something that I think we can all get behind, I'd say he can stay. And if he's going to go back to a back 3, then I'd rather get rid of him and maybe put you in charge, Ricky. Maybe you and Ben Davies can take the mantle or something. Because it's a really tricky one. I mean, normally with sport, we all have forthright opinions one way or another. I'm in this odd position where I don't know what I want with Tudor. There's part of me that thinks, if we went down, or if we lost to Forest with him in charge, would we be back here on Monday talking about it and say, well, yeah, of course, like he's done a terrible job thus far. Why should we be surprised? I just don't know what to think. There's part of me that wonders, has he almost done his job by arresting the slide, getting us a point, and maybe someone could take the mantle from here for the last 8 games of the season? Or has he earned the right to stay? And I just don't know. I'm finding it a really tricky one to reconcile, and I'd be fascinated to know what the rest of you guys think.
I don't think you're the only one, Ads. I mean, when you said putting me in charge, I'm not sure we'll get out for the second half if that's the case. Let me come over to G and bring him in. G, a fascinating stat, which I think Ads, your colleague on the Echo of Glory, come up with, Johnny. The most distance Spurs have covered in Premier matches this season are both under Tudor. That was against Liverpool and Fulham. And 3 of his first 4 Premier matches sit in the top 5 of our season. The exception being Palace, which again, I think as Johnny mentioned, is kind of skewed because we had 10 men for a large majority of that game. I mean, G, if I was sitting here a week ago, even asking you this question, even I would think I'm berserk and crazy. But where are you, G, in terms of where you stand now on Tudor, the fact that he's in the Atlético Madrid game? And as things stands at the moment, I have to say as a Spurs fan, you never know what's around the corner. Unless we get obliterated by Atleti tonight, which... I mean, in Spurs world, you never know what could happen. He's going to be here for Forest, G. Where are you in terms of Tudor staying in the job?
Yeah, look, I think it's a real tricky one because I do think that, look, when he first was brought in, to be honest, I wouldn't call it excited. Definitely was not excited by any means. But you looked at his track record, you saw that he was a firefighter for other clubs in Italy and France, and you sort of think, okay, really and truly, he should be able to get good results at the beginning, and he hasn't done that. And the simple fact is that his tactics are very, very, very basic, if anything at all. And you can see that how we lost some of the Premier League games. It's just all about man-to-man pressing, and there's no real plan in possession. But what we did see against Liverpool was the players sort of fighting a bit more for it. I think we saw that their pressing was miles better than we've seen in any of the other games. Still not perfect. There were still moments where you think things are a bit too slow. And ultimately, I don't think he's good enough in general. But the problem is so much of football is about momentum, not just tactics. And I feel like after you bring in, he was brought in, his first game was Arsenal, terrible start, really. And it snowballed from there. I feel like, and yes, he probably should have gone straight after Atletico Madrid. But once that's gone and you've given him Liverpool and he's gotten that draw, I feel like if you were to sack him straight after that, what message did that send to the players that were already feeling extremely down? Because like they finally fought, they were running a lot more, they're pressing well, they got an incredible result at Anfield, which to be honest, no fan was expecting at all going into the game. If you were to then sack the manager the next day, 2 days before a Champions League game, I just think the players drop even more and it would get worse and worse and worse. So I don't think this would be the right time specifically to have sacked him. I think, look, if tomorrow ends up being a catastrophic total embarrassment, then they may need to look for a quick change. But if the board haven't even got an idea of who that next person is, then again, like what you've got 3 days to sort that out. And who are the options? It's Ryan Mason. I mean, Harry Redknapp says he will take it, but yeah, you got Harry Redknapp. I think if there is a time to change a manager, it's most likely going to be after Forest when we've got like 3 weeks until the following games. So no, I don't think Tudor's good enough at all. But so much of football is about momentum and the mentality of the players, not just the tactics. And I think if you start sacking managers after a decent result, I just see this group of players, a lot of these weaker players, will just fall off a cliff. I don't see them turning around and getting a good result a few days later.
It's a real difficult quandary because I think, Gaz, coming over to you, I feel like I've wanted us to make a change as early as the Fulham game in terms of his position. But I think, like Jules said there, I think we've got to stick with him now for the Atleti game and in the Forest game at least, because we're finally in a position where we can build some momentum. And look, that doesn't translate to our survival, of course, but it does feel that in these last few days, there is a bit more of a positivity around the football club and around the fan base. And that's despite the fact that we're yet to see a win in 2026. And forgive me, this is the Spurs side that is only one of 2 teams of the 92 across England's 4 top divisions, like we said, yet to win a league game this year, along with Sheffield Wednesday, who've actually already been relegated from the Championship. So where are you guys in terms of the fact Tudor in now for the next game at least until we see how the players react?
I think it's a bit of a case of you're damned if you do and damned if you don't, really. If he went, he's probably going to send in the wrong signals, as George says. And if he stays, there's still a large proportion of us that are, is this the right appointment? And I think the reality is there's such a lack of options available for us. The minute, the amount of cries for, and no disrespect to an 80-year-old that has been out of football for a number of years in Harry Redknapp, and no doubt he probably could maybe get a tune out of a couple of the players, but it's a really difficult situation to be in. It really, really is. I'm not convinced by him, and I haven't been convinced by him really early on. However, as George rightly said I think even before we came on, and certainly when we came onto the show, is that you go to Liverpool and we actually got a result. And if confidence was slightly higher, and Richarlison could finish, it could come away with a result there because he had enough chances. And I think that once more confidence is in, and it's not this constant losing and everything's going against you, sometimes those balls just fall a little bit different. And fair play to him, for all the negativity that the fan base throws him, and I'm certainly part of that. When times got tough, he was one of very few that have stood up, and you saw that yesterday. You saw that on Sunday. So with Tudor, has he got a tune out of these guys? I'm not sure. Or is it that the guys have just realised the magnitude of the situation they're in and gone, you know what, lads, we can't. This can't continue, and we've just got to throw everything we've got at it. And it could be a bit of column A and column B, but the reality is he is here for two games minimum. I can understand that. We just have to get behind him, behind the players. We can't change the ownership now. We can't bring back all these injured players. We can't sign players. The only thing we can do is make an incredible atmosphere in these next 2 games and physically try and drag them players across the line.
Totally agree. On that point, in terms of players, we've got the confirmation that in terms of those returning ahead of this week, Lucas Bergvall is expected to be back in the squad. Bergvall actually a player that's ahead of the schedule. Cristian Romero also back in the frame to return for Tottenham, as also is Destiny Udogie. So we are slowly but surely getting some players back. Some concerns. Conor Gallagher. I've got to get your take on these couple words. Because again, with Spurs and injuries, I mean, you never quite know how serious they are. Although when you hear the words, it's just a knock or it's a small problem, that normally means they're out for the next 6 to 12 months. So we're hearing on Conor Gallagher that he's suffering from a virus that has affected his breathing. So make of that what you will on Conor Gallagher. And then Dominic Solanke has small problems, which again, we understand he's going to get assessed tonight on the eve of the game. Add your take on small problems, players struggling to breathe. I mean, where are your heads on that?
Oh, we've all got small problems, mate, haven't we? Let's be honest. And as my mate said, if Gallagher thinks his breathing is problematic, you have a listen to him during the game. He can be wheezing watching Spurs play. So I think, I mean, I don't know. It's the injury stuff is just so draining, isn't it? Every week, players back, someone's injured, and part of the enjoyment of going to football is knowing that you're going to go and watch some of your best players play. And it's the fact that it's not just that we get knocks, it's their 3-4 month injuries. And there's been such a long time, we haven't been able to watch our favorite players play together for a calendar year. It's just another thing that, results are bad and atmosphere, whatever you say. When you go to football, one of the great joys is getting to watch your favorite players play. And we've just not had it for a year. And eventually that becomes a draining thing. And when you're walking up to stadiums like, well, we haven't got him and you haven't got him. It's like going to the concert and half the band aren't playing. You would naturally feel slightly flatter. It just, so much of it has created an environment where it's just been miserable or slightly more depressing than it should be going to football before the game's even started. But yeah, I mean, the number of players for 3 years in a row, I'm at the point now where I can't believe this is just bad luck anymore. This should not be happening at a billion plus pound company. But I suppose it all leads back to stuff we've been saying for a number of months, if not years, that the leadership from the top down, it doesn't appear that there's enough checks and balances in place all the way through the club to ensure this doesn't happen, because this is unserious. Yeah,
I do agree. I mean, what was quite funny out there, and you said we're going up to the stands to watch some of our favourite players. I mean, at that point, I was thinking, who is my favourite player of what I'm seeing at the moment? But this is where we're at as well. I mean, G, coming over to you on that point, I think, again, sorry, I have to say, Johnny kind of put it so aptly on X. He said, nobody's ever assessed tomorrow, and there's been played since we were formed in 1882, which I thought was absolutely superb, and just kind of where we're at. George, can you believe this? Cut the players back, and then we then wait to see what happens with Gallagher again. It's just some of the crazy things about this season. I think Micky was to be assessed because of a fingernail problem, I think, forgive me, at the time. And now you've got Dominic Solanke that has got a small problem, and Gallagher affected his breathing. I mean, God, like Ad said, if anyone's been watching us this season, how has your breathing not been affected, G?
Yeah, don't forget Danzo's toe as well. That was another one that was... it's none of it makes sense, mate. None of it does. Look, great to have a few players, a couple of players coming back, whether they start or not. I mean, I doubt it, considering he said something about them not being, they'll play a moment in the match or something like that, I think he said in his presser. So you'd probably imagine they come off the bench rather than start the game. But look, good to have a couple of people back. It's weird because having positive injury news is always strange around Spurs. But yeah, for it to be such a big issue for so long, there's got to be some sort of long-term issue happening at the club. And like as I was saying, they're just not, it can't just be luck or bad luck, should we say, because I haven't seen any other club go through this for such a long period of time as well. And yeah, we do have some players that you would classify as injury prone. Maddison's injury prone, Udogie's clearly injury prone. But then you look at sort of like Gallagher, never been injured. Solanke, never been injured before joining Spurs. Yet we've barely seen them play. They haven't played half the games that have been available to them. So, yeah, I think something weird's going on, and I'm not really sure what the answer is. Personally, I think I know a lot of people trying to point towards the retractable pitch, but I'd love to know what the actual science is behind that, especially as we haven't had the issue for the first 5 years of the stadium. It's only really been an issue the last couple. But no, yeah, I'm just more than happy to see the likes of Bergvall and Udogie back, because we're definitely going to need more of them ASAP for these games, especially if they can maybe get a few minutes in the tank in this Atletico game to get them ready for Sunday, because that's probably the more important one for sure.
We are going to go quickly for our first break of the show. I'm really conscious, guys. I do want to come to you next, but I know George is leaving us in 5. So I'm just going to quickly play this Micky clip in terms of what he has said to the media, addressing the fact around the situation of the players and whether they care or not about getting relegated. We'll quickly get G's take on that. We're going to let G go, and then we're going to hear from Billie T in terms of the fan issues ahead of Sunday, and of course build up to Atletico and get Gary back in. So let's quickly hear from Micky van der Ven on his take around this situation with the concern around relegation and what the players think. And before we do go, guys, if you can, like, hype, subscribe to the show. We've got Gary here from Project Spurs. We've got Adam Nath here from the Echo of Glory. And of course, we've got George Achillea here representing Georgia Achillea himself. You can find him on the socials as well. Let's quickly hear from Micky van der Ven. And if you can for us out there, guys, like, up, subscribe to the show. Let's quickly hear from Micky.
Sometimes we just read things by ourselves, by the players as well, and then we just like, what is this like? The other day when we read something about the one guy that said to everyone that he's probably going to leave and doesn't care about the situation they're in, and then someone reads this and we just like, how does this come out? Like, people just making things up, and it's just frustrating for us as well, like, because it brings so much more trouble as well, because the fans are starting to believe this and are start saying like, oh, the guys, they doesn't care anymore what's going to happen in the club about the situation. But trust me, all the people involved on the pitch, the staff, the players, everyone, they care so much about the situation we're in right now, and we just want to turn things around, and that's the most important, that's the main focus for everyone. And then if some reports just start saying that guys don't care anymore, it's just frustrated for our guys.
G, just quickly get your take on that. I mean, that was on the back of the fact that the Athletic reported that some first-team players who are determined to arrest Spurs' decline have expressed displeasure at the application of some of their teammates who they believe are not motivated to help the cause. Now, the Athletic has even been told that one player had expressed to his teammates he is not too concerned by the possibility of relegation because he believes he can and will leave the club this summer. So that's where the crux of what Van der Ven's response has come from. What do you make of that interview from Van der Ven, who it feels that was a decent, I think, PR move from the club to put him up for that press conference on the eve of what's to come this week, Atleti and, of course, Forest on Sunday. G, you're taking that for you.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give it to him. He sounds very convincing about what you say. If he wants to be an actor, he can pursue it after his career. But no, I think, to be honest with you, I don't buy in coincidences at all when it comes to football these days. So yeah, like you say, putting Micky in front of the cameras right after it conveniently came out about that said player saying such things, and a lot of people were alluding to the fact it could have been him potentially. We've moved to Barcelona, we've moved to Liverpool, so I think it makes sense for them to put him there and to say that sort of thing. And yeah, whilst probably every player isn't checked out, it's the proof is in the pudding, in my opinion. And I think what we're seeing on the pitch is some players, not all, I think some players, you can tell just by their demeanor and their attitude and how they're playing, clearly haven't got that extra fight that maybe we've seen from the likes of Archie Gray or maybe a Matisse Tell, maybe, I don't know, Danzo, for example. There are a few you can see are giving it on the pitch, whereas others, I just feel like personally their demeanor doesn't show or back up what Micky's saying. So of course they're going to say that. They're going to try and take the blame away from themselves, and it's just a little bit worrying that they kind of are reading so much into what everyone's saying all the time. But I guess that is just the modern world. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing either. Yeah. So,
do you still have genuine concerns, indeed, what you're saying there? Do you feel there is some in that dressing room that are publicly talking about their future elsewhere?
I don't think it's necessarily the case that there are players just going like, yeah, I'm heading off. I'm going Barcelona. Don't worry about me. I don't think they're necessarily boasting themselves like that. But I think everyone would be extremely, extremely naive to think that there isn't at least one player in that squad that has had a conversation with their agent saying, get some feelers out. Because we all know transfers don't just happen in the summer. People get conversations from earlier in the season. So I think it will be a bit ludicrous to suggest that players aren't thinking about it. Yeah. But I do agree in the sense that I don't think it's just them coming out saying, don't worry about it, I've got to move, and just talking like that in training. I don't think it's the case at all, that way at all, sorry.
Yeah. G, I know, I'm conscious you've got to go in a second. Have you got a minute just before I go to the boys and get your take on it? Yes, got a couple of minutes. Let's go to Gaz on that. Gaz, just get your take on that very quickly, what you make of Micky's comments there. And I mean, again, I thought it was a good time from the club to get him out there into the media, given what we've got to come this week. I actually have genuine concerns that had we not heard from Micky ahead of the game, I would have been slightly concerned about the reaction he may have got in the home stadium. Maybe people feel I'm going overboard with that, but where are you on that, Gaz, for you in terms of that interview there from Micky? And that's obviously, again, pre-Atleti.
No, I think that's a reasonable assumption. I think because it gets spread so quickly online, doesn't it, that it's this player or that player, and that we are a reactive fan base, and things are really struggling at the moment. So in a way, all of a sudden, Micky van der Ven went from being our darling of the football team, of the football club that everybody loved, to, he's not even that good anyway, and he's rubbish at heading and he can't defend. And then we just wanted to criticise everything because we thought, this is something that he said, the reality is none of us knows what's been said in there, and none of us probably will know until that individual leaves the football club, because it probably will properly come out once that happens. And I just think that the deep-rooted problems at our club at the moment are far greater than a potential footballer that's never going to stay here for the rest of his career anyway. We're never going to go anywhere. That's the reality, and that's why it probably means a little bit more to us than that we are reacting to it. I'm the worst as well. I'll react to most things, and in your group chats and things like that, and it annoys me. But because I've supported this club since I was 5 years old, you know, it's different for a player, and I get it. They might be sat there thinking, okay, I'm probably going to leave at the end of the season. It might be like a Chinese whisper there. They've just said, "I'm probably going to have to leave at the end of the season because of," and they're talking about financial, and then that's got it screwed in a different way. Who knows? The reality is, we just need to stick together right now as a club, as a fan base, players. And I know all those extra bits over here that we're all really frustrated with. We just have to put them in a little box for a few more weeks. Let's get the survival, and then deal with those later on. But he did well in that, because, to be fair, the media were probably going to be ready for him with it. So fair to him for coming out and addressing it straight away.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I mean, like I say, he did make it very, very clear that the squad were feeling frustrated, but insists they still care. He said that people are just making things up, so it's frustrating for the group as well that then fans would believe it. As where are you on this point? Because I know you've said it actually quite a few times on Echo of Glory this season. I've listened to you that I think one of the frustrations is in that stadium that to express your discontent, for some out there, not for everyone, is to boo. I mean, that's all you can do. That's in your controllables, right? You know, and with all due respect, apart from if you want to be, you know, doing anything of an untoward nature. So I think the players maybe feel there is that kind of drop-off in connection. And then when you're hearing these reports and suggestions that there is a player, a supposed player, talking openly about wanting to leave the club, that frustration being there, and then Micky, the way he got himself sent off against Palace, I think you can understand why there would be that frustration. Do you feel on the back of that interview ads, has he arrested any concerns you have as a fan?
No, not really. I mean, not that I had like grave concerns, but I don't think that, you know, being put up in front of the media and saying some good stuff necessarily, I'm not going to take that as 100% of everything's great. But, you know, the saddest part of this whole season has been this perceived disconnect between the players and the fans. And as I've said before on this show, my show, that it's not the players that the fans have like an issue with to start the season with. It's everyone above them, but there's no one else that unfortunately bears the brunt of the frustration, because the players are the ones on the pitch. So when you're annoyed at something, it manifests itself as booing. But it's not that we're booing Pedro Porro's every touch. I know he's taken great umbrage at so much this year, and has been one of the ringleaders of sort of the anti-fan brigade, as far as I can see. And I think his conduct has been pretty poor, to a point where I was disappointed he was the captain on Sunday, to be honest, because I don't think he'd earned the right to have such an honour to be our club captain. But look, I think with the Van de Ven thing, it bordered on doth protest too much a little bit. I mean, he offered that thing about the one player, sort of seemingly offered it up as information from himself. He wasn't asked about that specifically, and he offered that up. And I don't know, I mean, put it this way, no one, when that story did the rounds, no one thought, I wonder if it's Archie Gray, or I wonder if it's Richarlison, or I wonder if it's a player that's been working really bloody hard every week for the team. And, you know, Van de Ven has got the opportunity now in the last 8-9 games of the season to make any suggestion that it could be him look daft. But the reason that he's unfortunately been one of the people that's been, you know, targeted or questioned as maybe he's that guy is because he's been terrible, and he's looked terrible, and his body language has been terrible. He's been captain of the team. Now, again, he may not have asked to be captain, and he may not be a natural leader. So I'm not going to criticize him for that, because, you know, he as one of the more senior players, you know, that's how football works. So I don't mind about the captaincy stuff, but he's just been poor, and his body language hasn't been great, and he's been hard to warm to. And I don't hate Van de Ven. I'm not going to slag him off. I don't think he's a bad player, but I don't think it'd be disingenuous to come on this show and say, you know, everything is rosy with him, because it's just not been for the last 6 weeks. But he has now got the opportunity, as do all of them, to rubbish any suggestions and say, well, it can't be me because look how hard I'm trying for you. And really, that's all we want, right?
Absolutely. I think that's spot on. It's hard to find the right tone with that particular issue that we've got because, again, I know some will be suggesting out there, you don't want to throw a player under the bus, but then at the same time, you can only judge them for what you're seeing them perform like on the pitch. And again, for some out there, we'll have to take his words at face value, but Ads is totally right there. I think the judgment will be what we see in these final 8-9 remaining games. And that's what people perceive as their judgment, because I think he was, rightly accoladed for how he performed in that Europa League final, and of course be remembered for that goal-saving clearance. But I say this for all of the group at Tottenham, that this has got a real potential to tarnish the group's legacy if the group oversee the club's first relegation since 1977. And I don't know about you guys out there, I think that is, as much as everyone loved Bilbao and it was an amazing moment, to me, for the club to be relegated and the stigma for that to be on these group of players' CV, I just don't think you can shake that off. I really don't. I know, G, you've got to go, but very quickly, G, what's the approach for you for the Atlético Madrid game in terms of how Spurs should deal with that ahead of what we know is the monumental game to come against Forest on Sunday? I don't go lightly in saying this. For me, I think as a fan, I speak only for myself, I see that as probably being the biggest home game in our illustrious history. People might think that's well over the top, right? Well overboard, but certainly in the modern history, God, Sunday's massive. G, where are you in terms of how he gets that balance right for Atleti and then for Forest?
Yeah, this is the sort of kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, because obviously, for me, like I said, I think the full focus obviously has to be on that game on Sunday against Forest, because like you say, it's so important. It's a massive 6-pointer in this relegation battle that we just shouldn't have been in the first place. But again, it's just that whole thing of making sure the players are okay, but also having momentum going into that Forest game. Obviously, we've got a very good result against Liverpool away from home. I just want us to continue that. And I think more importantly than anything, Atletico Madrid needs to be a top performance. We need the players, again, to sort of give everything, show everything that they can on the pitch. I mean, at the end of the Liverpool game, if I remember correctly, I think I saw Dragusin and Sarr literally drop to the floor in exhaustion. And I think it's hard to sort of keep that balance of we need to keep fighting. The players need to keep showing that they want to win games, but equally not do so much damage that they end up injuring themselves because we can't afford it. But I think winning tomorrow / today, if you're listening to this, is equally as important. Look, even if we don't get through, but you still win the game, I think the players just need to get used to winning games again.
Great.
And hopefully the crowd can back them as well. If it's a great performance, the players are giving everything. Even if you win the game 1-0, 2-0, and you're just showing that you can do it, that should hopefully build momentum going into the weekend, because then they've got that belief of, hold on a second, that's a draw away at Anfield, that's a win in a single game in the Champions League. We're coming for Forest at the weekend. So it's just about that attitude shift and showing a performance, even if we don't get through overall, because obviously turning over 3 goals is a huge ask when we've got 3 games in a week.
And G, before we let you go, you follow this club home and away. Put a size on the scale of just how big that Forest game is on Sunday as you're in your supporting life at Tottenham.
I mean, it's huge. I mean, I still wouldn't necessarily put it higher than like the Europa League final or anything like
Would
that.
you not?
Because like at the end of the day, as much as we have to win at the weekend, you've still got 6 or 7 other games. You know what I mean? Whereas that final was a whole trophy on the line. But it is definitely fair to say, in terms of a league game, it has got to be up there for one of the biggest in the last. Probably, to be honest with you, with the ramifications of what that result could be, probably in the whole ENIC era, really.
Yeah, I think it is only that big. G, you've been a star. Listen, absolutely lovely to have you back on the show. You'll be back with us very, very soon.
No, thank you for having me on. So it's a short-lived one.
Let's hope it's not as short-lived as us trying to get this momentum back with Tottenham. Georgia clear across the show. So we're going to go for our next break of the show. Writing and casting, getting his makeup done in the background is Billie T. We're going to quickly hear from Igor Tudor. G, you've been a star. We've got Adam and Gary still with us. Let's quickly hear from Igor Tudor, and we're back with you after this very, very short break.
Igor, thanks for joining us. Looking ahead to Atlético Madrid, second leg. First of all, good news at last. You got Lucas back in training. João is missing though still. Cuti's back though. Micky's available. Destiny's going to be on the bench. You got some good news at last.
Yes, some good news, but also some bad news, because Conor is not here, and Dom has some small problems. We're going to see tomorrow how he is. Sousa is not inside because of the Champions League game. So we are quite very similar with the numbers. If we see that Destiny and Lucas can play just one small part of the game if we force them, so probably. But okay, it's a positive thing, as you said, to see new faces, new guys would mean also good energy. For sure, for Nottingham Forest, we'll come back 2-3 more. So the key is that the last game, what happened in the pitch there, that's the most important thing. Going there with 12 players and doing that performance, that what is important.
What have you seen from the players since we've been back from Anfield? They must be positive. Yeah,
very positive. Give us some oxygen, some courage, some mental refresh. Just now we need to keep going on that direction.
We all know there's a huge game against Forest coming up on Sunday, but for this second leg, what's the approach? I like what you said in your press conference. Difficult, but not impossible.
Yeah, we need to believe. That's the first thing. Football is strange, and even what happened in the first game to give us motivation to show that what happened at 20 minutes is nothing with the game what was there. So there's also motivation to show that they're not better than us. It's not easy. 3-0 is a big result, but we need to stay in the game, maybe score one goal, then stay. When you score one goal, everything changes. When you have 1-0, just go 1-0 and keep the game open until the end. And then you can score 2 goals in 5 minutes, 10 minutes. That's the plan. Let's say.
I guess the thing is the balance, isn't it? Because we can't leave ourselves too open, can we? By going for goals.
Of course.
Because Atleti are so good up front.
Of course, it's very important. Rest defense is always the key, especially against danger team like they are. They like that you believe that you will take the ball and then going back behind with the Griezmann, with all 3-4 of them. They are very, very fantastic. You see the field goal they make, like one touch and run, everything was perfect. So we need to do perfect game.
Just finally, Igor, as a coach and someone who lives and breathes football, it's your life. How much do you enjoy a challenge like this against Atlético Madrid, Champions League?
Yeah, it's lovely because let's say everyone are assured that they will pass. So the players need to think in this way. So something impossible does not mean, you can be the hero if you change the things, So there's the motivation in the motivation, but the first thing are it's a Champions League game. We're playing our home, our stadium, so we need to try and give really everything to pass.
We wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
So yeah, that was Igor Tudor there ahead of tonight's game against Atlético Madrid in the Champions League. We are joined back by Adam Nathan, of course, from Echo of Glory. Please make sure you go and check those guys out. As always, try and remember this. Is it once or twice a week, depending on our exploits in competitions at the moment, which are getting weaker and weaker, it feels.
Depends on podcast hamstring injuries and things like that. We can't be overworked as a group. Twice a week, Mondays and Thursdays or Fridays.
Superb. As you're a star, make sure you go and check out Echo of Glory. We've also got Gary Wall back. Gaz, love to have you back on here. Gaz is fairly regular still, aren't you, Gaz? You're almost getting a bit of a momentum gain. Is it daily at the moment?
Yeah, I think I'm with you most. I'm with you the most I've been with anybody. But yeah, I'm doing shows constantly. I've done 3 today. I've got 2 tomorrow, and I'll help anybody out if you ever need it. If anybody listening, you got a podcast, you need somebody, I'll come and help you out. I just want to talk football and help people. That's all I've ever wanted to do. So, yeah, it's 20 past 11 on a whatever today is. It's rolling into 1 now, so I'm pretty tired. But
the Archie Gray of the Spurs community, willing to play out of position and wherever to help the cause. We're also joined by one of the busiest men at the moment round the Spurs community in Billie T back. Well, actually, I've been seeing more than my wife at the moment, which isn't a bad thing. Just make sure the wife doesn't hear me. You might hear a plate coming back through the window at some point, just to let you guys know. And it's not a Greek plate, that's for sure. Bill, how are you, mate? Busy
I'm very
week.
good, mate. This is number 5 for me today, so it's been a busy day, and we finally got to be in person yesterday, didn't we, Rick? Which is nice.
We did.
And,
we did.
Yeah, you're definitely the person I see the most in my life at the moment, and I wouldn't change it. But this is definitely good to be on with three people who are probably sick of hearing from me, because I'm in various group chats with all three of you guys, and pretty much just talk Tottenham all day with all three of you.
I find that hilarious. Look, let's just address the one thing that is the plans ahead of Forest on Sunday, because you've just actually recently been on. Again, I'll give it a plug. There'll be in the collaboration link, the whistle blows. You've already given a build up in terms of what the plan is for Sunday on there. But just for viewers and listeners, the last one on Spurs, and ahead of this gathering on Sunday ahead of Forest, we're going to come back to Atleti in a second. What is the plan for Sunday, Bill? What is the message to those match-going fans ahead of Sunday in what, as we've all described as being, I've said it, I think it's a historic home game coming up where it feels a lot more is on the line than just 3 points, Bill.
Yeah, so the idea is to build some real atmosphere before the game, and to flood the high road with Tottenham fans and create a real party atmosphere, and greet the team bus. It's obviously partly inspired by Everton fans. There's actually randomly a lot of Everton fans watching the show that I did just previously. I think they obviously have heard about that Tottenham fans are essentially copying what they did, or certainly being inspired by what they did. So they come along, and when they got relegated, they were in a relegation battle. There were scenes outside Goodison Park that had a real impact on the players. So it's an attempt to recreate something like that, and there's going to be the plan is to get there early doors on Sunday from 11:30, and then we have been in contact with the club as well. They're going to let us where the bus route is. It's roughly speaking, we're thinking about outside the bricklayers and in between where the Son mural is, and there's going to be barriers outside as well that the club are providing. They've been really helpful for all this stuff actually. There's going to be a drummer there. There's going to be flares and songs and chants and everything like that. Interestingly, we had a meeting with Met Police on Monday. They were keen to say no flares, but all I'll say is I can't stop the general public doing what the general public do. So read that as you will. But it's going to be a real party atmosphere, and we want people to turn up and sing and chant for the fans, for the players. Sorry, and when I say that the club have been really helpful in this, obviously some people have said, well, I've been been down there early before, and Tell drives in or Moani drives in and stuff like that. The club have actually agreed all players will get the bus this game, including some injured players as well. So it's going to be a real big event, and but fucking hard. It's been literally non-stop for a week or two, non-stop behind the scenes, but just to try and generate some atmosphere really, and Dre supports the players, and if it gives them an extra 5-10%, and who knows, that could be what we need to beat Forest. But in a season where the connectivity has been an all-time low this season in terms of fans and players and stuff, and you only have to, I was just listening before I came on about the Van de Ven story and stuff like that. It's been an abject season for fan connectivity. Hopefully this might rebuild it in some way.
You make a really important point there, and I mean, just coming to you on that point, because you actually said it just before that last break, that you were saying there before it around the fact that the frustration that we've shown at times could be kind of misjudged at points. It's been on the players, but do you think this is a real opportunity to reconnect with the players, maybe a bit of an olive branch for the remaining home games of the season to really try and get that connection back on side? Because I don't need to tell you, Ad, you're there every other week. I mean, that home stadium, I mean, it's turned to apathy, hasn't it? It's beyond anger now, just of the home form. And if you actually said to me, look, we're in March, 2 home wins in our stadium this season, it's unthinkable, Ad, isn't it? I mean, where are you on that? I'm going to get you to unmute.
Yeah, I mean, it's what Billy and the guys are doing is brilliant, and they deserve all the commendation in the world, because just to try, and this should be the last thing that the fans are expected to do. We're there all the time. We obsess about this club. I got friends that can't sleep because they're so stressed about the relegation. Like, if anyone's going through it, it's us. And I hope that isn't lost in all of this. Like, it's the fans are stepping up now. Sometimes people talk about it's like an obligation. It's what we should be doing. I don't think that's the case at all. Like, fans react when they're given something back from the club, and we've been given nothing from the club this year. Well, for maybe longer, outside of the Europa League run, there's been nothing to hang your hat on. So for fans to be stepping up and doing this, I think is just a really wonderful thing, and I say all the commendation in the world. Because right now, obviously I'm desperate for Tottenham to stay up for what it means for Tottenham, but it's more about I want Spurs to stay up for for my mates and
Yeah.
for you guys. Like, I
Bless
don't
your heart, mate.
really, I don't want it for the players particularly. Like, I don't feel it's the
Yeah.
relationship that, you know, if we stay up on the last day of the season, for example, I don't feel like we're going to see scenes where like the South Stand are celebrating with the players as one communal thing. I think we'll all be hugging each other in the
Yes.
stands and like,
Yep.
I don't want to look at you players anymore, which is sad. Like,
Mm.
it's not right. It's not the way you want a club to be.
No.
But unfortunately, there is a real disconnect. And you're, you know, again, for the third time, I really hope that what you guys are doing, Billy, and it can, you know, mobilize the fan base to, even if it is brief and even if it is fairly sort of, you know, just, you know, on the face of it, just rebuilding something that just carries over the line. Because, as I say, I want to stay up for you guys more than anything else, and for my mates and my dad. Like, that's who I'm going to thinking of. It's not going to be about, you know, Romero and Van der Ven, much as I will always respect them for doing it.
Yeah. As you're such a top man, you really, really are. Guys, to bring you in now, I think it's a really important point there that Adam makes around the fact of, as fans and what we're being asked to do. I mean, I think I'm right in saying, Bill, don't put words in your mouth. I think the club have been, is it fair to say, before I go back to Gary there, they've been fairly accommodating right on this? I mean, they probably need us right now. Is that fair, Billy, given the state of where the club are at?
Yeah, massively. And there's some stuff coming over the weekend that I can't announce, and but you'll see how much of a team effort this all is, so without a doubt. And you know, it's funny because in my other hat, I organise protests against the club, but this one working with them, and they've been very, very helpful. And shout out to Jay and Stu and the team behind that have been meeting with the club, and it's been very, very positive. Yeah.
Guys, where are you on this for you? I mean, are we going to expect to see? I'd hope there's a massive turnout on Sunday. I'm now considering bringing my boys along with me for the pre-game. I'm not sure I'm going to put them through the actual game itself, but I'm thinking of bringing my boys down just to get a glimpse of what it's going to be like on the high road, because I do think it's going to be hopefully amazing to see all those Spurs fans turn out and support the team. And yeah, I just feel like this is hopefully an opportunity to all come together at a time where it feels, look, I think the club do need us. I think the fans, like Adam said, they're spot on. You know, this is probably, you feel, a situation where the fans are so critical in this moment to really help. And I think we saw that, you know, in the scenes of Everton a couple of seasons ago. Guys, where are you on this for you?
I mean, it's amazing what Billy does and the team and everybody what they're doing. Again, and I echo a lot of what Adam said, pretty much everything that Adam said. I'm going to say we in this, as a collective. It shouldn't be on the fans to do this. We are there every week for most of our lives, you know, every other week. And some of us, Rick, you're on podcasting every night and every other night and hours talking about it because of your love of your football club. This, what my only hope, and I'm sure that this is something that Billy wants, is that when that bus goes through, that it actually hits home to those players what it means to us.
Spot on. Not
what it means to them, what it means to us. And it is in their hands. Our future is in their hands right now. And that's all I care about. If it gives them, like Billy said, 5 or 10% extra, and it gets us over that line, because when we're in the stadium, we're going to give as much excitement, encouragement as we can inside that stadium. And that just gives them that little extra to get them over the line. It'll all be worth it. But we shouldn't have to do this. It should be a given. Turning up, working hard, being coachable, being disciplined. They are non-negotiables in anything you do in life, and especially when you're £1 million millionaires. But I really do hope that they've come through that high road and they see all these, I hope, thousands of people, so I'm certainly going to be one of them, that they go, do you know what, jeez, this really means something to these. Like, we've got to do it just for them. We have to do it for them. And I hope that message really hits home with them.
I know, Bill, you actually referenced Everton quite a few times there in terms of what they went through a few years ago and how those fans of that club did galvanise that group to see them through and get them to stay in the Premier League. Of course, one of the founding clubs in the Premier League and have never got relegated in terms of the top flight, in terms of being in the Premier League. Bill, just to go back into what you said a few minutes ago, you've been used to organising protests against the club. Now it seems that you're doing something for the Spurs fans out there. What would your message be to fans that are frustrated by the case of calling for change, and where does that leave that from a change for Tottenham perspective?
Yeah, look, I think you know, after the January transfer window, like all fans, we were furious. Everyone was furious. And what's transpired since, and all this that we're doing now, is a direct result of that incompetence in the January transfer window almost, and, you know, the previous transfer windows that have come before it. So after the January transfer window changed for Tottenham, decided, we were angry. You know, everyone was angry at the time. We were getting inundated with people saying, this is a disgrace. This is an absolute disgrace that I remember on the Friday before that January transfer window, Thomas Frank said, the squad now is weaker than when it started. And that's, you know, essentially what has led us to the position that we're in right now. And in that January transfer window, we were 13 points clear of the relegation zone. As a result of it, we're now 1 point clear of it, essentially. We lost 8 players in that January transfer window. So everyone was fuming, and, you know, we thought we'd change to Tottenham, right? And lots of people, you know, that we speak to were like, well, this is a huge opportunity to protest against the owners. We've got to have consistent action in every home game for the rest of the season. And that's when we decided, yeah, let's go for that. And, you know, we'll start off with the Nottingham Forest and Brighton games because we didn't want to touch the North London derby at the time. That was the decision. And then since then, we've lost literally every single Premier League game. And we've ended up not just where relegation was like, oh, we're 13 points clear of it. That could be something to keep an eye on. We're 1 point clear of it now. So the situation has changed massively. And we're in uncharted waters in my lifetime. I've never been in this kind of situation before. So suddenly it's not like we're in a situation where relegation is threatening us. We're in a situation where, you know, on Wednesday, we were the bookies' favourite to go down above West Ham. So the situation has changed completely. And in that situation, I just feel like it's really, really important as a fan base that we try and do everything to try and drag the team out of it. And that's why I think you've seen such, you know, this movement that has been started has been supported by the Trust, Return of the Shelf, Flags, Spurs Reach, the Fab. Every single supporters group has come out in support of this. So it's made it, you know, impossible to protest at the same time, essentially, because we don't want fans to have to think, well, do I protest against the owners or do I support the team? And that's, you know, Change for Tottenham has always been about doing both those things at the same time, which is why it's been paused, which wasn't an easy decision to make. But I just feel like as fans at the moment, we have to get behind the team. Once that is done, whichever way the chips fall, and hopefully they'll fall with Tottenham staying in the Premier League, that's when there is time for unprecedented action against these owners, because there is nothing that can happen this season unless we miraculously win the Champions League, which obviously will probably be decided by this time tomorrow. There is nothing that can happen this season that they can escape from what an absolute disaster that has been. What Adam was just saying there is exactly right. On that last day against Everton, it's not, if we stay up on that day, for example, it's not going to be like celebrating Bilbao, is it? We've survived. It's like surviving a near-death experience. It's not celebrating an experience. It's surviving a near-death experience. So that will be the time then to really put the pressure on the owners. But until that has happened, I think as fans, we've really got to get behind the team.
Well, Bill, thanks for all that you're doing. And I'm sure like a lot of Spurs fans will be turning out. And a lot of match-going fans watch the show. And again, I think, Bill, you're doing a service to us all, saying, I know I'll be there on Sunday. And I think that's the key, isn't it, Bill? I mean, I don't think you want to quickly say to anybody out there that's umming and ahhing about whether to come along to this, because it does feel like this is a real call to arms, isn't it, to Spurs fans all around the world. And I even would say for some out there that I know there's some Spurs fans that don't even want to give money to go into the stadium, right? But they can still come along on the day if they want, just to cheer the team into the ground, Bill. Is that fair?
100%. And I think, you know, I'll always point to this Andros Townsend interview that happened a couple of times when Everton survived. He said that Everton were struggling like we are. They were losing game after game after game. They couldn't buy a win. And he said suddenly when Everton fans started gathering in the streets, we started driving past it. And it really lifted the fan, it really lifted the players, and it really sort of was what eventually ended up to them dragging them over the line. So if anyone doubts the impact that this could possibly have, then you know, I implore you to go and watch that interview and watch what happened at Everton, because it can have a real impact. And I think what Adam said is really important. It shouldn't be on fans, this. You know, we are not only have we received nothing, we've exchanged gigantic financial gain to do it as well. Unprecedented amounts of ticket prices. Yeah. So it shouldn't be on us, but it is. And that's our job as fans, and we will show up. And at a time when it doesn't feel like everyone is doing everything they can to keep Tottenham in the league, at least fans can, and we always will. So, you know, I think it's really important for fans to finish the season knowing that we tried to do everything that we could.
Yeah, totally agree. Guys, before we look ahead to Atleti, I just want to quickly pick up on another player that's spoken out recently. Obviously, we discussed Micky van der Ven and his comments about the situation around players not wanting the club to get relegated. I still can't believe I'm even saying those words. What crazy season this has been. Absolutely nuts. As I just want to start with you quickly. Pedro Porro's been out in the media. Look, you'd imagine it's because of case that we're playing a Spanish team, so he's spoken to Spanish media. This is to AS Diario, where he was asked about the question whether he'd like a return to the Liga as he's on the big club's radar. And I think, again, I like this response. Right now, I'm not thinking about returning to Spain. I'm thinking about getting up from this situation, getting out of it however possible. When you are young, you think about the biggest clubs. I'm already at one. Even though things are not going well for us, I played 1.5 years in Spain. I would like to return one day, also because of my family. Hopefully the door to my return is always open. What was your case on that, Ads, in terms of how he was speaking to the media? Because, I mean, I think he just handled that in the right kind of way, given the recent shenanigans it feels around the squad at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably hard to have too aggressive a take either way on a fairly milquetoast response to a standard question. So I'll probably just sort of dumped on your point there, really, haven't I? But I just, you put it in the running order and everything, and I've just come in with a wrecking ball and said, I don't care. I don't, I think he's answered it with a pretty straight bat, and it makes sense the way he's responded. Porro's the kind of player I've found so frustrating, but I've made a real conscious point of trying to not blame the players who have looked really poor in a structureless team. I think I said last time I was on that, when Sherwood got sacked, I was adamant that Danny Rose, Carl Walker, Christian Eriksen, Moussa Dembele were all absolutely terrible players. Jan Vertonghen, I couldn't wait to get him out the door. And I think that taught me a lesson that when a bit of proper coaching comes in, it's amazing what they can do with talent at their disposal. So I've really tried not to dig in on individual players, Colomwani, except because I just can't tolerate it. God, that is quick. That is quick how you get those pictures up. You must have known I was going to say it, or the algorithm knew I was going to say it.
We knew it's coming off your tongue, didn't we? We do. We saw for the mouth movement.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, apart from I was talking with some mates a minute in a group that we were in, Billy, that I think Vicario, Dragishin, and Mwani are the only three that I'd probably cut ties with regardless going into next season. The rest of them, if you gave me a proper coach, I think I'd give them a chance to right the wrongs of the last couple of years, to be honest.
Now you've gone there, Ads, very quickly. Who is the man for the summer? I've got to ask you. Now you've gone there very quickly. Who's the man to rekindle your connection with his football club?
Even if it's not the right thing to do, I'll just be devastated if it's not Pochettino.
I agree, mate. Yeah.
I just need it. And then we can bring a big barbecue down to one of these, bus things on the high road with Billy. Billy can do the burgers. I'll do the steaks. We'll have the time of our lives. It'd be tremendous.
Oh, mate, I love having you on the show. Superb. I'm with you as well. I just feel like if it isn't him, I'm going to be so severely underwhelmed because I just don't know where we're going to go from here. But I've said that so much in the last 7.5 years, I know where we're going to go from here. Guys, just get your take on that and Pedro Porro's comments. He's also spoke about Cristian Romero, who likelihood is going to potentially be back in the team tonight for this Atleti game. He said on Romero, he's a leader. For us, he means a lot. He's a very important player inside the dressing room. And apart from that, he brings the experience. He is young, but that mentality of a leader, of wanting to win everything, also involves me because I'm more or less like him. I do not care if they step on me because I think I will get up. And that is QT. Apart from being an extraordinary player, he has a very, very good mentality. What do you make of that, Gaz, for you, those comments there?
It's obviously great, but I just want to see it on the pitch from him individually in terms of Cristian Romero. I think he's let the team down a lot this season in terms of his on-field antics. I don't know what he's like behind the scenes and how much of a leader he is or isn't. I can only judge on these performances. And when we've needed him, there's been a number of occasions where I think he's really let not only himself, but the players around him and, of course, us as a fan base. So I hope that he's going to learn from that because, obviously, we all make mistakes and need to be learned. But if he continues to make them, then there's a serious issue there. Pedro Porro, I like. I'm very similar to Adam on a lot of his takes tonight. I really do like Pedro Porro. I think he's just had a very poor season in amongst a very disorganized manager, which I still find quite difficult to talk about. Thomas Frank being disorganized and not really given much. He didn't develop anybody. I can't tell you anybody that has worked with him that's looked better. if anything, with worse. So Pedro for me is a really good player. I like him. I like some of the attitude that he does have. But again, I'd like to see what Mauricio Pochettino can get out of him next summer or next season.
Okay, it does feel like we're all on the same wavelength for that. Porro was asked what needs to change for this game against Atleti tonight, and he said, I gave the message after the match, whoever does not believe, let him stay in Madrid. Here in London, it can be a difficult match. It is true that in the Premier League, we do not win, but in Europe, we have not lost for almost 20 matches. In the semi-finals against Bordeaux, we quickly went 2-0 up, for example. Nobody can say no, and that is the message. Whoever does not believe, let him stay here in Madrid. Call me crazy, but in one match, you can score a goal and it can change everything. Well, let's discuss that very quickly about changing everything, because Spurs are going to look to complete what would be a spectacular turnaround as we do welcome Atleti to the stadium. I know, Bill, I've been joking with you all week. You've been saying to me that at this level, that when you reach Simeone, it's the final boss of this game in terms of the Champions League. Bill, how do we approach it in terms of the lineup for this one and getting that balance right, given the magnitude of that game against Forest on Sunday and what it means in terms of trying to retain our Premier League status?
So I think there's obviously some different options and considerations. I think one of them is, if we're genuinely serious about trying to overturn this tie, which maybe there might be an intention to do that, maybe the players have watched Sporting tonight. It is doable, it could happen. And, one thing that we learned from Sunday is you can absolutely never predict this football club. They'll always do the most surprising option, whatever it is. So it could happen that we do overturn this result. Then we need to score early, and we'll have to get an early goal and get the crowd behind us if we have any chance of doing that. The second consideration is, if you're going to say, right, let's forget the result and let's really just try and prioritise Sunday, then the consideration for there is, well, we've got a little bit of momentum from the Liverpool game now. So whatever happens, we don't want to lose that. So you got to play a sort of stream that's almost strong enough to not get embarrassed, but or weak enough to maybe give a couple of players a rest for Sunday. So it's a really difficult balance to find for sure. And I think I don't envy anyone making it, because in the situation that we're in, you just wouldn't be surprised if you go and give Romero and Van der Ven a run out to try and get them back into a bit of match practice for Sunday, and then one of them go and gets injured. That's the typical thing that we've seen all season.
Yep.
That's the kind of thing that we've been up against. So it's a really difficult balance. Well, I think he will go fairly strong, just because if we lose heavily and we get embarrassed like we did last weekend, like last midweek, all of that goodwill from Liverpool is gone, and suddenly people are saying, Tudor shouldn't even get the Forest game. And it wouldn't be, how volatile the situation has been. Is that on Friday I was speaking to you about midnight, weren't we, Rick, and saying, well, Tudor could go tonight, even according to Ornstein. I think Fabrizio Romano tweeted that his job is in serious danger.
De Zerbi is the dream project.
If we get heavily beaten, then God knows what will happen, because there'll probably all kinds of rumours about him not getting the Forest job will come out. So we have to try and balance it really right, and we have to do it right. And the only problem is, you're going against 4 goals. You're not just going up against a normal team. You're going up against Simeone. He's like, as I said to you yesterday on TalkSport, he's the final boss of gameplay and game state and stuff like that. This is his thing. So it's an almost impossible task, but it's not impossible.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said there, Bill. I mean, Spurs have only won 3 of their last 16 UEFA games against Spanish opposition, though Atletico have also been victorious in 10 of their 14 two-legged ties against English clubs. Atleti have actually won 7 of their last 11 Champions League last 16 ties, while they have opened the scoring in 7 of their last 8 matches in the competition. So, scoring first against Spurs on Wednesday would give them a 4-goal advantage in the tie. And it does feel at the moment, coming over to you, Ads, given our lack of scoring goals in general this season, if they were to score first, I mean, I know it's crazy being a Tottenham fan. Even I can't sit here and predict them up for us scoring 4 goals unless we are playing Romero and Van der Ven up front, and then we'll see what happens. Where are you on that for you, Ads, and how we do set up for this one?
I find the whole thing so confusing, largely because, if I want... 100% of me wants to beat Nottingham Forest on Sunday, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
I don't know if 100% of me is that desperate to qualify for the next round, given that the quarterfinals would be around that Sunderland game, for example, and the distraction that
Yeah.
will. I know that sounds terribly defeatist, and the point of football is to win and be in Europe. But I said that when Spurs appointed Tudor to be the manager, they basically entered into a football manager style scenario of you have 11 games to stay in the Premier League, and there's part of me that just thinks, do you just need to park everything else and just prioritize making sure that we're in the league next year? And do you want 2 more games potentially against Barcelona or Newcastle? Like, I'm not saying that I don't want to go through, but I'd be interested to know what the rest of you guys think. Like, is there a fervency in all of you to qualify, or is it one of those things where you go into it thinking, yeah, whatever, like if we do, we do, but if we don't, I'm not overly fussed?
I think it's so hard. I mean, for me personally, I just worry that some say it's a good distraction to have this opportunity of a European run, but not at the detriment of you. When you look at the amount of injuries that we've picked up this season, my concern is that we do go with pretty much I say a strong 11. We've still got, 9 or 10 injuries going into this game. So my worry is that if we get 1 or 2 injuries for this game that rolls into Forest, then I am really worried, because Forest, as we've all seemed to kind of allude to here, is a historic must-win game for Tottenham. Where are you on that, Gaz, for you in terms of how he gets that balance right? Because I think no matter the lineup he puts out tonight, there'll be some fans that won't be happy. There'll be some fans that might be more understanding of it. But whatever lineup he's going to put out, there's going to be critics in it, isn't there? No one's going to fully agree 100% whatever team he puts out there.
No, then that's always going to be the case. I think for me, if the squad wasn't as how can we say, short or
paper thin,
yeah, is probably the best term. Then I would like us to try and go as far as we can in both. But the reality is, when we are not, and we are paper thin, I think it's an unnecessary distraction. For me, the Premier League survival is the most important. There's 2 differences really for me. Atlético Madrid will go, let's say hypothetically we go through, we might get Barcelona, let's say, and we might get some more money. Okay. If we beat Nottingham Forest, we've potentially saved ourselves from relegation, or we're very close.
Momentum
of it. What's most important? A bit of money or building that momentum in the Premier League? For me, it's the Premier League. Premier League survival is paramount. I generally think this is one of the biggest games in our history, and we've been in obviously cup finals, domestic and European, and winning for something is incredible. But none of those games potentially had our club's future on the line. This does on Sunday. For me, if the squad was in better condition and we had more available, then go for both of it. For me, I don't want to get embarrassed. I wouldn't mind seeing a relatively strong squad, but ultimately, and I think probably we'll all agree on this, I don't think we have much choice, because I don't think we've got enough players to be able to rest. Especially if Solanke's out, then it's going to be Colin Moani and Xavi Simons up front.
Yeah. Well, yeah, or Simons just in behind. I think, and obviously Richarlison is suspended as well. So when you put that together, I think we've got potentially 12 senior available players to start. That's assuming, as you've just said there, Gaz, that Solanke's out. You've got Vicario, Porro, Danso, Dragishin, Romero, Van der Ven, Spence, Grace, Sartel, Simons, Moani. So you've got very little wiggle room there at all. Very little wiggle room.
We just don't have a squad deep enough to worry about both. So we have to think of what is the priority right now. The priority is Premier League survival. But don't get ourselves embarrassed that the start of the momentum we've built with Liverpool completely crashes and fumbles. My biggest concern for tonight is the formation, because 4-4-2 worked. My worry is he's going to go to that back 3 and he's going to revert back to something that he wants to focus on.
Yeah.
And I'm concerned on that. I want us to stay with that 4-4-2. We look good. And also, how odd is an old-fashioned 4-4-2 come back round into a modern game and actually looked relatively quite decent? And Liverpool struggled with that with 2 strikers. And the 2 strikers, with no disrespect, Solanke and Richarlison. And it's crazy when you think about it.
Yeah, I do agree. I think it's going to be a difficult predicament. Well, a tricky predicament for him in terms of what he does with the team. But then again, he has got such limited options that it's going to be an interesting one. I mean, my concern, as just coming back around to you, is that what I don't want to see is we can't just afford to get obliterated. I mean, if we were to lose 3-4-0, then suddenly you feel like his future's back up in the air ahead of what is a crucial couple of days to Forest. I mean, that is probably the most important thing, right? Adds that this is the thing with that Liverpool game. I saw a lot of Liverpool fans suggesting that they weren't actually quite surprised by how bad Liverpool were. I know, obviously, we've only been thinking about it from a Tottenham perspective, but Liverpool have conceded a lot of late goals this season. So will your mood massively change based on what happens in this next 24 hours in terms of the result? If we are given an absolute thrashing, will you start to panic ahead of Forest on Sunday, Ads?
I don't think it'd be possible to panic more about Sunday than I am already. So the answer to that question in the short is no, but I do get what you're saying. I don't know. I mean, like, the art of management should be that if something bad does happen tomorrow, you can compartmentalize it and get your players ready to go again. And, you know, if the players have been speaking a big game this week, Van de Ven, Porro, good luck to them. Good on them. As we said in the first half of the show, they've got the opportunity to prove us all wrong and prove that they are fully committed to the cause. And it starts on Sunday. So, you know, now is not the time for players who are making excuses and hiding behind, oh, well, you know, we had a bad result. Everyone's really sad. Oh, no. Yeah, I mean, great. We've got to go and beat Forest on Sunday. So Atlético Madrid are potentially a top side who could beat any team anywhere, I would imagine. So even if we wanted to go out and beat them, we might still lose. And I think there needs to be some sort of realism going into it that whatever happens, tomorrow's sort of a free hit. Enjoy the experience, and then we'll see you again Thursday morning to get ready for Sunday.
Ads, we staying up? Are we staying up, Ads? Just very quickly before we let you go. What are you thinking?
Well, now we've got that point against Liverpool. I was looking at how far away the Conference League spots are. I think it's just about in touching distance. There you go. Look at that. Not a million miles off. We've got Everton to play as well. Could happen.
Is it the 13 points?
Just the 13 points.
Yeah, just the 13
Easy.
points to make up.
I do think we'll stay up. And I've said for a long time that I think if we stay up, it'll be with sort of 46, 47 points. And if we go down, it will be, you'll know by the end of April that we're going down. I think we're either going to just, you know, get enough results to make it moderately comfortable with the last couple of games, or we're just not going to find anything and they will have just run out of puff, and that'll be us. I mean, the whole thing is just completely terrifying, isn't it? Just have to pray that it's the former and not the latter, that they have just run out of steam. Hopefully, with the number of players coming back, it's almost a different team that's going to start playing these games. And just hopefully, if Kudus comes back, then you're pretty much at kind of full expected strength of what you thought you had going into the year, knowing that Madison and Kulusevski were struggling. Just have to go from there.
And gut feeling very quickly, how confident are you that Tudor will be here to oversee these final 7-8 games, or is that still an impossible question to answer?
Yeah, I think I don't think you can answer it yet, because it's so result dependent on Sunday that you're basically doubling up your prediction for Sunday with what you think will happen with Tudor, I think.
Yeah. Okay, Ad, you've been a superstar. Very quickly, just final one, Ad, where can everybody hear you, listen to you guys? You'll be back with us when Echo of Glory will be back with us for the next show?
The boys are spinning on Friday morning. Echo of Glory, EOG THFC on Twitter, as in my little name thing there. And it's a newish show, been going a few years now, and trying to build the brand like Ricky Sachs. You know, I don't know how you the demon of Spurs podcasting. You know, we look up to you with awe how you do it. So we're on our way, and hopefully people can come and join us on the ride. It's good fun.
Bless your heart, mate. Look up to me. Half hour late, barely on time. Never know where this show's going to go. Who knows, mate? But you've been a diamond, and we love having you on here, Ads, and sharing you with the boys over at Echo of Glory. A great pod, one that you need on your commute wherever you are. Once, if not twice a week, whenever they drop. Make sure you check those boys out. Gaz, always a pleasure to have you on the show. You've been a star as well. Gaz, what's your feeling now going into this? It feels monumental week. How do you see it playing out?
It's a huge week. The only saving grace, and I said on the last time I was with you on Thursday, that going away from home can take some pressure off those players, and I think that helped. The saving grace, hopefully, for this week is Nottingham Forest is away on Thursday night. They're losing in their tie. They're not going to have a huge amount of rest. Hopefully, that makes an effect going into the Sunday. But for me, Sunday is the most important. Don't want us to get embarrassed tomorrow. If we can stay within the game, great, and get some minutes into new legs. I firmly believe if we can beat Forest, we're going to be okay. If we lose against Forest, The critical next 3 games for me is survival or relegation. And Igor Tudor, I think we'll know by Wolves. And then with Igor Tudor, for me, it's going to be the case of game by game. If we don't get a result against Forest, pretty sure he's gone. If there's a draw there, then I think it's game by game situation time for him, and that's not good for any of us really. So it's a really, really difficult situation to predict.
Yep.
I just feel like with the number of players that are potentially coming back, that we've got enough quality that can see us through. And I hope that the players understand how much the club means to us when they turn up on Sunday, and that gives them that extra boost for the rest of the season.
Fingers crossed. Gaz, you've been a star. Thank you so much. Project Spurs, of course, make sure you go and check Gaz out over there. Gaz, you've been brilliant. Bill, let's close with you. Big week in store. Starting with Atléti tonight and then Sunday. Bill, a final rallying call to everybody ahead of what's a massive, massive week, Bill. Starting with Atléti and then, of course, Sunday against Forest. What do we need to do? What do we need to do? Remind the fans the plans for Sunday.
Yeah, look, it should not be on us fans to get us out of this mess, but it is. And, the word support is always in the word supporters, isn't it? It's our job to support the team and carry them over the line. Shouldn't have to be that way, but it's the situation we find ourselves in, guys. So we got to turn up. We got to turn up in big numbers for the players. We got to give them that extra 5-10%, and it's going to take place on Sunday, 11:30. We're going to greet the team bus. The team bus is coming past. We're going to really, I echo what Gary just said is really, really important. We have to show these players. At the moment, it feels like Tottenham is a burden for some of them. We have to show them that it's everything to us fans, and it means the world to us. And if we can get in the streets in big numbers, it's going to be a drama. It's going to be a party atmosphere. All I would, like and Spurs fans to remember is that parade showed the maximum that our club can be. 200,000 people took to the streets of London, North London. That shows what Tottenham is, what Tottenham can be. Unfortunately, the ownership and the board have not been able to, create something which is worthy of that fan base, but we're going to be there. We're loyal. We're going to be there the whole time anyway. And when our team really need us, that's when Tottenham fans show up. So we're going to be there on Sunday from 11:30. The bus is due to arrive about 1 o'clock. Come down. We've got the drummer coming. We've got flares. We've got going to be a megaphone. There's going to be flags. THFC flags have printed 200 plus flags for this. There's going to be some really interesting stuff on social media as well coming in the next couple of days. I implore everyone to check social media out on Thursday at 1 o'clock and also on Saturday as well. There's a lot of people working behind the scenes to make this stuff happen. And that just shows you a testament of what Tottenham fans can be. We saw it at the parade, and now we're going to see it on Sunday as well, how much this football club means to us all. And one thing I will say, though, is there is an absolute nightmare of train cancellations on Sunday, so please double check that if you're coming down. There's no trains from Liverpool Street, so please check it, and hopefully see you all there.
Fingers crossed. Bill, thank you so much, and thanks again to outline that around the travelling. Always would be, wouldn't it, in terms of a drama situation to get there.
Piccadilly line's closed. It's just so Tottenham, isn't it? One day we need everyone in the streets.
Everything is working against us, from the bloody officials to the train management services. Honestly. What a football club. What a football club. Listen, been a great to have this wonderful panel alongside me. Gary, thank you. Ads, thank you. Bill, thank you. Tottenham, over to you. Massive, massive week in store. What can they do? What can they offer? We'll see from us all. Please, guys, as always, keep safe, keep well. And as always, come on, you Spurs.